Hey Facebook, it is Krisha here for the Wine Wednesday What Would Krisha Say show. Sorry for being a few minutes late here. I was ready to start at noon, but my whole entire computer is giving me the rainbow circle thing, meaning that it is on a bit of a break right now. So if you flip over, that's that was the scene I was stuck in. And there's my rainbow thing. So what a great face. Anyway. So today, excuse me. First of all, hi, I am Krisha Young. I am a lifestyle strategist. I work with busy professional women mostly, and helping you get out of overwhelm, manage stress better, and live your absolute best life. So wherever you're feeling where maybe you're not happy with certain areas of your life right now, in terms of maybe your relationship with food or your relationship with yourself or your body, pardon me, the way you think, the negative self doubt or self-image or anything like that. Those are the kinds of things that I work with my women, either one-on-one or in my group program, the Delicious Life Movement. Now today I realized it is November, which means it's Movember. I mean, it's almost the last day. But I wanted to touch on the men in our lives as well, because, for a lot of us, we are, a lot of my women, my clients, they're in relationships, and it's important for their men to be healthy as well. And I know I have quite a few male viewers and man friends and colleagues and stuff, and so I wanted to touch on this as a part of sort of overall living a delicious life. Now, so I've got some notes here, and sorry, I am kind of holding my phone at the same time, so I'm trying to keep it super still so it doesn't jiggle everywhere. So a lot of men, the symptoms that men will walk around with would be, a feeling of being exhausted and tired, the belly fat, right? Maybe a bit of foggy brain, so not being able to process, remember things or process thoughts in a clear way or anything like that. Erectile difficulties or problems in the bedroom, maybe no sex drive whatsoever. Maybe not having any issues of actually, performing, but just not really wanting to. And that in itself can decrease your own confidence levels as well. So, excuse me, I always like to look upstream, right? My big thing is not to just stay in the symptom phase, but find out what is the root cause of all of that, because otherwise you're really just putting a Band-Aid on Niagara Falls. And so if we look a little bit more upstream about what's going on here, right? So tired, belly fat, foggy brain, sex drive, confidence issues, so on and so forth. So let's just pull tired, for example. What could be creating that is obviously maybe a lack of sleep. And a lack of sleep can come from a lot of different things, but if we go swim way, way, way up, chances are there's some sort of stress there, right? We're dealing with some sort of stress going on in your life right now. And men are different, deal with this differently than women do. So women talk about things, we might shout about things, we might freak out about things, but we're way better at communicating. We're not as good at, we're not as good at taking care of ourselves and putting ourselves first, but we do communicate when things are not going well, when we're not happy. We communicate with our partners, we communicate with our friends, we communicate with our kids. We have no problems doing that. But where men are concerned, they internalize a lot of things, right? So they don't talk about what is going on in their lives where stress is concerned. And this is usually because men are coming from a place of wanting to provide, right? That is like how men show up, is they want to provide. Women are the more, traditionally more nurturing. That is more in our nature to be more nurturing. We want to help in that kind of way, whereas men are more apt to help in the providing sort of way. And so providing means obligations, right? And so a man will look at things in terms of what are his obligations to his family, what are his obligations to his work, what are his obligations, and men hold those obligations really, really, really tightly. Women can be a little flippy-floppy with that kind of stuff sometimes. Now, these are blanket, generic statements, okay? So don't write me back and saying, well, I'm a woman and I'm a good provider. Of course you are, right? We have these blurred roles nowadays in terms of all of that. And there's a lot of women who have had to take on masculine roles, and there's a lot of men who've had to take on feminine roles. So there is a lot of gray area in this, but I'm just saying, like, traditionally or typically, this is what is observed in that men versus women sort of thing. So if we go back to the internalization of, for men, when you're not communicating what's going on, that can lead to a sense of isolation, which can then lead to a sense of depression, right? And so now if we look at those symptoms that I talked about at the beginning, like feeling tired, the belly fat, the foggy brain, the erectile issues, sex drive issues, confidence issues, you can see that that level of stress and overwhelm can create that internalization, which can create that isolation, which then in itself is stressful because you're still a human being, and human beings need social connection to survive. So what can you do about this? Again, I always bring everything back to mindset, and I bring everything back to stress, because for me, over the last several years of being in this business and doing what I do, working with clients, this is usually the root cause of what's going on. And I would rather see you, I have what's called the iceberg effect, right? This is where I would rather see you spending even 5% or even 1%, whatever you can handle, 1%, 5% of your time, working on the things, the things that are going to get you deeper, longer term results, than seeing you spend 95% of your time, say, slogging it out at the gym every day. Right? Slogging it out at the gym, it's going to give you a nice tight body and all that kind of stuff, but it's not really going to be addressing the underlying root problems if stress is in fact an issue for you, right? It will help release endorphins. It will help with the confidence, because you're going to feel hot in your bod with all the ab ripples and shit like that. But if the stress is still going on in your life, and there's still a sense of obligation, and there's still a sense of isolation, those problems haven't gone away yet, right? So it's really taking a holistic sort of view and a holistic approach to whatever's going on in your life. And so I would rather see you spend 1 or 5% of your time focusing on the things that I'm about to tell you, than spending 95% of your time on things that are only going to get you a smaller 5% result. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm just getting over this stupid cold, and I still have a little thing in my throat. So the first tip is, it's such a flippant female thing to say, but it really will help. And it's to talk about it. And I know this is really hard for men, right? It's maybe opening up some vulnerability, which for men means weakness. But I can tell you, as a woman, when a man brings that vulnerability or that openness and that communication to a conversation, it is sexy as you know what, okay? Because then, for me, as a woman, that's information. And that's information I can do something about. And that helps me be that nurturing, caring, feminine. It allows me to pull out and draw out that feminine side of me. When men are shut down and uncommunicative because they're trying to protect, or they don't know how to communicate, or they don't want to show up as weak or something like that, it really frustrates women because then we can't do what we're naturally good at, okay? That's an age-old men are from Mars, women are from Venus stuff, and we're not going to unpack that here today. But I just want to reiterate it. And there's a balance there, obviously. I don't know if you've seen the Friends episode where Bruce Willis is on it and Rachel is like trying to get him to be more communicative and vulnerable, and then he just starts crying and he doesn't stop crying for the entire episode. It's like really funny. And she's like, oh my God, like he's so freaking annoying now. So there's a balance here, right? It's not about like crying all the time, but it is about, finding it within yourself to somehow start trusting that if you are communicating what's going on and having that vulnerability, it's not weak at all. And I think this might be a generational thing too, because I think that possibly, I don't know many millennials, but I think I've seen a couple television shows with them on it, and I think they are a lot more open to expressing their emotions than, say, a man in his 40s or 50s or 60s, right? It's just a generational thing. It's not how you were raised, all that kind of stuff. So I get it. It can be a bit of a challenge. But there's ways in which to communicate, right? Like if you're not ready to communicate or talk about what's going on with an actual live human being, you can do something like take your headset and your phone and record on your phone. And nobody has to listen to it. Nobody has to even know it's there, right? So this could be like the man version of journaling, mannerling, right? Where like a woman might write, a man might feel more comfortable talking it out on a phone or something like that, rather than like buying a pretty pink journal and writing it. However, that said, writing is a really great exercise for anybody to do. It's not gender specific. So writing a novel or something even, or a biography or whatever. But anyway, seek out men's groups or friends or buddies or something like that, especially if you are in the isolation phase of stress. Like if you're finding yourself like pulling back and the only people you talk to is like the grocery store person or somebody at work and maybe your kids and your partner, but you're not talking about anything of significance. It's all just like, I don't know, typical day-to-day stuff. It's so important to find those people in your life that you can offload the deeper stuff, because that is really going to help with the isolation, and that's really going to help with the stress. Because then you're going to find that your friends are probably going through the same shit. And then when you're talking about it, then you can come up with solutions about how to manage it and deal with it, right? And then I think going back to the communication thing with your woman, men like to problem solve, right? So I know for me in past relationships, if I've gone with a problem, my girlfriends know just to listen and intuitively. And sometimes they'll offer advice, but sometimes it's just listening. And men want to get straight into problem solving mode, and they just want to do that, and they think it's helping. Meanwhile, the woman's like, I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen. Women are very good at problem solving though. So if you don't want to just be heard and you want to have a solution to your problem, communicate that, right? Like, hey hun, this has been bothering me for weeks. I'm so stressed out about it. What can we do about it? Like, let's problem solve this. That might not be like actual language that you would use. But think about that and think about how maybe opening up a little bit would help you get out of here and loosen up the chains of obligation and loosen up the chains of feeling isolated and internalized. Okay. So that's that. And, you know, I'll talk a little bit about, sorry, my just getting numb from holding the phone. I'll talk a little bit about like cravings and stuff too, because this can obviously impact your weight. Now, I've talked before about how belly fat is usually stress related because it is, we have a lot of cortisol receptors in our stomach. And what that means basically is that, sorry, I keep getting notification messages on my phone here. So the belly fat, the cortisol receptors are basically, it's like when you are constantly stressed all the time, you're constantly pushing out adrenaline and cortisol. And when that's constantly being pumped out, it's attaching itself to your belly. And so it like starts to accumulate fat, right? So these like big bellies that are, you know, a lot of men are walking around with, a lot of that is stress related, okay? But anyway, so let's talk about like the cravings for indulgent foods, and this can apply for women too. However, where men are concerned, it is, it's a portion size problem. So women might go and have like the cake and then the chips and then the ice cream or something like that, right? Like we will stress eat. But a man would maybe eat like, let's say, an entire lasagna in one go and then move on to something else, right? So there's a portion size problem where men are concerned. And you have to understand again, like let's go upstream. Where are these cravings coming from? They're probably coming from stress, because stress, when you've got all those chemicals rolling around in your body, that is creating some blood sugar problems for you. And those blood sugar fluctuations will create cravings. Okay. And then I'm not even going to go into the whole digestion thing, but there's a digestion connection here too. So, you know, a lot of this has to do with inconsistent eating too. You know, when you are stressed out or when you are busy or whatever, there's a tendency to skip meals. There's a tendency to like not eat all day and then maybe eat at night or something like that, or eat like really crappy food all day long. So the fix for this really is going back to eating frequently, watching those portion sizes, and but like more importantly, when you're sitting there with the entire lasagna in front of you and you're about to eat it, maybe ask yourself, why am I about to eat this entire lasagna? Oh, because I'm feeling so fucking pissed off and stressed out right now that I could kill somebody. So instead of killing a person, I'm going to eat a whole fucking lasagna, right? So cool, have the lasagna, but figure out why you're so pissed off, what you can do about it, how you can communicate it, right? Like, we're here to fix the root cause of what's going on so that you're no longer feeling this way. If you do not address these things, it is going to continue to come up for you. And I had some pushback on this one when I was testing this particular tip out. You know, like, oh yeah, I know that I should be eating frequently, but like that just feels like so overwhelming and stressful. And my response was, well, you have two choices in life. You can have a limp dick or you can have breakfast. So decide, right? Like that's really what all of this comes down to. And his response was, of course, well, I don't have a limp dick. So I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. Like the belly fat then, you know, have a belly fat or breakfast. Like you choose what you want, and it is a choice at the end of the day. So how can you do all this stuff? I think it's about finding a practice you can stick to, okay? So I talk about this stuff all the time in all of my live streams, and I have a 7-day reset that I'm going to post on here too afterwards once I can get everything back up and running again. It'll be in the subject so that you can grab it. It's totally free. 7-day reset. It's going to have a bunch of 7 different tips that you can do on a daily basis. Pick one and just do it. You don't have to do all 7, right? Play roulette with it. Find one that you really enjoy and you really like and use that. And that's really going to help you with the mindset piece and with the getting out of the overwhelm and getting out of stress, okay? So some things for men that work really well would be meditation. Like meditation works, man. It works. But I understand there's a lot of resistance to it. It's not easy. And, you know, seeing the value, it's like you have to kind of do it and practice it to really understand the value of meditation. I can sit here and tell you my whole entire life has changed because of meditation. It has. But until you actually start practicing that yourself and trying it yourself, you know, you won't have that kind of buy-in. But, you know, start small, start with like just a couple minutes. There's a ton of apps online that you can find to help you with this. And I actually have a program called Permission to Pause, which is an introduction to meditation as well. Martial arts are great for men and for women too. I mean, this stuff is like for both men and women, right? But martial arts is great for men. There's that discipline. There's that physical aspect of it. Same with boxing, right? Any kind of physical thing. So when there's a lot of stress in your body, you need to get that out of that. You need to get that energy out. So for men, generally the fight or flight is what applies to them mostly. So if we go back to our caveman brains, which we still have, by the way, that hasn't changed over all these millions of years. And the men were generally the ones who were fighting or fleeing, right? The women were at home and not as subjected to stress in the same kind of way that men were. So ours was a different stress response back in the day. So for men, like getting that energy out is so important. You guys have a ton of testosterone in your body, and that testosterone is fucking powerful, and you need to get it out. So get it out in a healthy way. You know, like, so doing something physical, like going to the gym, lifting weights, running, boxing. Am I still on live? I don't know if I'm still on live. I just got a phone call. Last time I got a call while I was on live, I recorded like 45 minutes and nothing recorded. Is anybody on here live right now who can like give me a thumbs up or something to say that I'm live? I can't even do it here on my computer to see because that's all. Okay, I don't know if I'm on live or not. Shoot. Ay. This is the problem with doing live streams on your phone. If anybody's on here live, can you please let me know by like liking or making a comment or anything like that? Okay, I'm just going to hit finish.